Happiness through curiosity on the Ranveer Show. How is the RBI governor's role different from the chief economic advisor?
Yes.
Different from the people within the finance ministry and the finance minister herself.
So the RBI governor does a bunch of things. One, of course, is they govern the money supply. Most people understand it as RBI prints notes. It prints notes, but it does a lot else in terms of governing the money supply. Biggest concern is the reserves that are out there in the system. These are words I'm going to throw out. You don't need to understand. The audience doesn't need to understand them. Things like liquidity they manage. Then interest rates they set. That is an important part of what the RBI does. It sets it high enough to keep activity from not going too fast, more inflation, or too slow, more recession. And it keeps it in the right place. That varies. That is something that it has to think about. And that's why we have a monetary policy committee. One of the things I did was to set up that monetary policy committee to make those decisions. Because earlier it was only the governor making decisions. I thought that was too much on one person. It had to be a broader process. But I think that one of the most important differences between the RBI is it has these set roles. The ministry is more about fulfilling the promises of the government in power, right? So the ministry is run by the finance minister, who is a politician typically, and so they have to do what they promised the people. And the RBI, on the other hand, is more a technocratic institution. So typically, the objectives are aligned. We both want growth, we both want development, we both want low inflation, but sometimes they diverge. So, for example, before an election, the ministry might want, please cut interest rates. It's going to be better for re-election. People don't like high interest rates. Don't keep growth too tight. Let growth go. That might be the incentives. On the other hand, if the RBI is a technocratic institution, it's saying, no, that'll prompt inflation. We don't really care about which government is in power. We care about inflation in the longer term. So there are some differences. Typically, there's more agreement between the RBI and the finance ministry. But of course, in the finance ministry, the attempt always is to boost growth. In the RBI, it is to keep inflation under control. So sometimes there are interesting conversations.
It's a kind of a co-founder relationship. One co-founder's aggressive, wants too much growth. The other co-founder's the play it safe. Hey, listen, let's not get too crazy.
That's a very good way of describing it. Absolutely. And of course, the problem is one co-founder is appointed by the other co-founder. So this is why people keep saying we need independence. And there's a certain amount of independence which has developed over time through custom. That the RBI, even though the governor is appointed by the finance minister along with the prime minister, over time develops a certain kind of independence of their own.
I can't imagine how many human dynamics and power dynamics are at play when all this is happening.
Yeah, no, there is a lot. The Indian government is a complex institution. And there are, apart from objective differences, there are also, cohort differences. The IS is a very strong and powerful force within the government, and they have their own sort of issues. So it's an interesting. I think sociologists would have a fun time looking at all this and examining the different behaviors.
Okay. And where does the CEA come in? Chief Economic Advisor?
The Chief Economic Advisor is supposed to be the technical advisor to the finance minister. So essentially, they're trying to tell the finance minister, okay, you want to do this. This is the best way of doing it, economically speaking. Be careful. Don't do this, but do that. So, for example, let's say the idea is we want to boost growth by reducing taxes. Where do you reduce taxes? Do you reduce taxes so as to enhance investment? That is, you reduce it for corporations making investment, or do you reduce it on Aam Janta so that they can have more money that they can spend. Which one do you do? How do you do it? Those are the kinds of issues that the chief economic advisor would advise the government about.
Is that a job profile that ever interested you?
I think it is a necessary job profile. You need to understand how the government works. If you want to be in something like the Reserve Bank, you need to understand, here are the dynamics at work, here are the concerns. It is also a place where the, political establishment gets to assess you. Are you, before entrusting you with too much power. So a number of chief economic advisors have become governor, Bimal Jalan, for example. And I think it breeds a certain amount of trust when you have a chief economic advisor interacting with the finance minister of the day.
Gotcha. So all in all, the CEA kind of feeds into that aggressive co-founder, which is the government. The RBI governor and his team or her team are the slightly play it safe individuals in order to keep the safety of the country's economic growth at the forefront.
Exactly. And this creates interesting dynamics. I'll tell you one story where one gentleman, and I won't name names here, who was on the, you said, aggressive co-founder side, that is on the ministry side. I won't reveal his position because it'll become very clear who he was, wrote a very strong letter to the Reserve Bank saying you must do this because you're holding back these developments. And then in the middle, he wrote the letter, no reply. In the middle, he got shifted and became deputy governor in the RBI. And he had the task of responding to the letter that he had written himself from the finance ministry to the RBI. And he wrote back rejecting all the demands that he had put forward. So the point is not that this is silly government. The point is that within the government you have checks and balances. And each institution has its objectives. And I think when they both work, in a broader spirit of cooperation, but each one focusing on what they are supposed to do, it works well. And sometimes you get these strange situations where the same person, but with a different objective, will respond differently to that particular issue. And I think this is okay. This is healthy.
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip from The Ranveer Show, we've uploaded a ton of other clips related to a ton of other topics. So explore the channel because there's something for everyone.